For weeks, I had been building dreams in my head. My 18th birthday wasn't just a number, it was the milestone. Adulthood, freedom, recognition. And according to my parents, this year would be special. They kept saying, "Just wait, you're going to remember this birthday forever." I imagined every detail. A surprise venue, a crowd of loved ones, everyone cheering as I walk in. Cameras flashing, music rising, and a spotlight that finds me as I enter the hall. I pictured myself in a crisp black suit, confident, finally seen. The day arrived, and my heartbeat was almost louder than the car engine. My parents had gone ahead, asking me to arrive fashionably late. That made it even more exciting. A grand entrance. An unforgettable moment. But when I arrived at the venue, a huge banquet hall covered in golden drapes and shimmering chandeliers. Nothing felt like it belonged to me. There was laughter, loud music, dozens of people, dressed up like they were attending a royal wedding. Everything looked perfect, but something didn't feel right. I stood at the entrance, waiting for someone to notice. To shout, "He's here." The birthday boy. But no one turned. No eyes sparkled. No cheers echoed. Instead, I watched as people walked right past me. Like I was invisible that I stepped inside, one slow breath at a time. The doors closed behind me with a soft thud. But inside, the room was alive, with music, laughter, cameras clicking, waiters weaving through the crowd holding trays of appetizers. My eyes scanned the entire hall. Gold and white balloons floated above tables. Fairy lights twinkled along the ceiling, and a DJ stood behind an elegant booth playing upbeat tracks. People were smiling, posing for photos, dancing. But none of those smiles were meant for me. I took a few cautious steps forward, still hoping this was just a delay, a moment before the big reveal. I adjusted my shirt collar, checked my breath, and gave a half smile to a group of girls I recognized from school. They glanced at me, and then looked away. No recognition, not even curiosity. One of them leaned toward another and whispered something. They both giggled. I caught the word crasher slip through her lips. Crasher? At my own birthday party? My heart thudded against my chest like a warning bell. I glanced around, looking for familiar faces, my cousins, old school friends, someone who could break this nightmare open and tell me, "Relax. It's all part of the surprise." But no one came. Even the decorations didn't match anything I liked. The theme was too formal, too fancy. Not me at all. Where were the things I loved? The blue lights, the comic-themed table signs, the favorite snacks I had talked about? Nowhere. I walked deeper into the room. Still nothing. No banner. No cake. No happy birthday sign with my name on it. The floor beneath me felt unstable. Not literally, just emotionally. Like I was walking on a memory that wasn't mine. The waiters ignored me. Even the photographer passed me twice without asking for a photo. And for the first time that night, a thought crept in quietly and painfully. Maybe this party wasn't for me. But how could that be? My parents said it was. They promised. Did they lie? Or did something change? Either way, I was starting to realize. I didn't belong. That I walked through the room, my feet feeling heavier with every step. Everywhere I looked, I saw others enjoying themselves, laughing, chatting, taking pictures with one another. But not a single person was looking at me. I could feel my palms sweating, my breath shallow. I needed to sit down. I needed to breathe. I looked around for a table to rest at. I was sure someone would have reserved a seat for me. After all, this was my birthday, wasn't it? I scanned the tables with my eyes, moving past the extravagant floral arrangements and shimmering place settings. But as I came closer to each one, I realized something. Each table had a name card. And my name? It was nowhere to be found. One table had Ayan written in elegant script. Another had Uncle Tariq, then Sarah, Raza, Aunt Amna. But there was nothing. No seat with my name. Not at any of the tables. I tried not to panic. I thought maybe I was just being silly. Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe they hadn't finished setting up yet. Maybe I'd find my seat at the head table. I walked briskly toward the large table at the center of the room, my heart racing with every step. The moment I reached the table, I began scanning the name cards. Uncle Rizwan, Mom, Dad, Farhan, the neighbor's kids, and Ayan. Again, I kept checking, hoping to find my name, hoping for a sign that I was really the one they were celebrating. But there was nothing. My hands started shaking. The tightness in my chest was unbearable. I felt like the walls around me were closing in. I glanced back at the room. Everyone was busy, laughing, chatting, taking photos. But no one seemed to notice me. No one was wondering where I was supposed to sit. No one cared that I couldn't breathe. I had to leave the table. I turned away from the seatless space, trying to hide my face, but the tears began to burn my eyes. I needed to find my mom. I needed someone who could explain this. I needed someone to make me feel like I belonged here. I spotted my mom at the buffet table, laughing with a few friends. It was a warm, forced laugh. The kind of laugh you put on when you want to convince others that everything is okay, even when it's not. I took a deep breath, tried to steady myself, and walked toward her. "Mom," I whispered, trying to sound casual, even though my voice trembled. She didn't turn around. I repeated, louder this time. "Mom, where's my seat?" She turned slowly, her smile fading for just a second. She blinked at me like she hadn't expected to see me there. Her eyes darted around the room. It was as if she was looking for an escape. "Oh, sweetie," she said softly, trying to mask the confusion in her tone. "You're here already? I thought you'd be later." She gestured towards the far corner of the room. "Just stand over there for a bit, and we'll figure it out." Just like that. No acknowledgement. No apology. No happy birthday from her. It was as if I had just walked into the middle of someone else's celebration. Before I could respond, she turned back to the conversation she had been having. Her eyes never met mine again. I felt like I was standing in a dream, a nightmare, really. One where I was the guest of honor, but everyone else had forgotten. Forgotten that I even existed. Forgotten that today was supposed to be mine, that I walked away from her, heart sinking deeper with every step. As I moved further into the crowd, I searched desperately for my dad. Surely he'd notice me. He would tell me where my seat was, remind me that this was my day. I saw him near the entrance, laughing and talking with Uncle Tarek. I tried to walk toward him, but something inside me stopped. I couldn't bring myself to approach him. Not yet. Not after this. Not after everything. I couldn't take it anymore. The silence was too loud, and my heart had nowhere to go. I needed to understand what was happening, so I took a deep breath and began walking again, through the crowd, past the laughter, the chatter, the people who had no idea I was slowly unraveling inside. I made my way toward the front of the hall, hoping to get some clarity, maybe even find some familiar face that could reassure me. But then, I saw it. A giant birthday banner hanging above the main table, framing the entire scene in bold letters. It read, "Happy 18th birthday, Ayan." My heart stopped. Ayan. That's not my name. That's my cousin. The one I barely saw over the last few months. The one I didn't even consider as the center of this celebration. I felt the ground shift beneath me. No, this wasn't happening. There had to be some mistake. Maybe it was a typo. Maybe this was a surprise for him. I looked around, and there he was. Ayan, standing confidently in the center of the room, cutting into the cake I had been dreaming of for weeks. I blinked twice because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He smiled, looking completely at ease, as if this was his moment. Everyone gathered around him, clapping and laughing, praising him as he prepared to make his wish. And my parents, they were right beside him, cheering along with everyone else. Suddenly, the noise of the room seemed to fade away, replaced by a ringing silence that only I could hear. Ayan's birthday. The realization hit me like a train. It wasn't my birthday at all. This was his party. The entire event had been planned for him. I stood frozen, my feet heavy on the ground. No one had told me. Not a single word. Not even a hint. I watched them all laughing, clapping, celebrating. And there I was, still standing on the edge, trying to piece together why I had been invited at all. I stood there frozen. My head was spinning. My heart was shattered. I could barely process the scene in front of me. This wasn't my party. It never had been. I turned away from the group, unable to watch any longer. The noise, the laughter, the celebration, it all felt like a cruel joke. I wasn't part of it. I was an outsider. I stumbled down a hallway toward the restroom, the tears starting to blur my vision. My hands shook. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing anymore. But I needed to get away from the crowd. I needed to be alone. I locked myself in a bathroom stall, my chest tight, my throat aching. I sat there in the dark, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of everything. How could they do this to me? How could they let me think this was my birthday for so long? Had they forgotten about me? Or was it just something they didn't want to deal with? Suddenly, there was a knock on the bathroom door. I flinched, but I didn't answer. The voice outside grew louder. "Are you okay, son?" It was my dad. His voice was warm, but I could hear the concern in it. I didn't answer. I didn't want to talk. Not now. Not with everything crashing down around me. The door creaked open a little. He stepped inside, his footsteps careful. Son, I know you're upset, but… He trailed off when he saw me sitting there, hands covering my face. For a moment, there was silence. The kind of silence that spoke louder than any words could. Then I looked up. My face was streaked with tears, my heart aching with so many emotions I didn't know how to express. Dad, what is going on? Why didn't you tell me? My voice cracked as I spoke, the hurt in my tone unmistakable. Why did you let me think this was my birthday? Why did you bring me here, just to let me watch someone else take everything I thought was mine? My dad's face softened. He took a step closer, kneeling in front of me, his eyes filled with regret. Son, we didn't want to hurt you. We planned this as a surprise for Ayan. We thought you'd be okay with it. You were always so understanding, so selfless. But we never realized how this would make you feel. He paused, struggling to find the right words. You've always been the one to put others first. We thought you'd be fine just stepping back, letting someone else have their moment. But I see now we were wrong. I swallowed hard, trying to process what he was saying. The truth cut deeper than anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. They had chosen to ignore me. They had chosen to forget about me. I stood up abruptly, shaking my head. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I didn't want his pity. I didn't want the apology. So what? Ayan gets to take my place, and I just go along with it? What about me, Dad? Where do I fit into this? He looked down at the floor. He didn't have an answer. The room was quiet. Too quiet. My father's words echoed in my mind, but the weight of them felt too much to carry. It was all so confusing, so painful. I didn't know what I needed. I just wanted it all to stop. But then my dad, kneeling in front of me, placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. He didn't say anything more. He didn't try to justify or explain. He simply stayed there with me, letting me feel everything I needed to feel. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at the floor, the silence between us stretching on. The tears didn't stop, but something inside me was changing. You were never forgotten, son, my dad said softly. I know it doesn't seem like it right now, but you are loved. You matter. You always have. This isn't about you being invisible. It's about us not seeing you the way you needed us to. But we can change that. We will. His voice cracked with emotion, and I could see how deeply he regretted letting things get to this point. I looked up at him. His face was filled with regret, but it was also filled with something else, a willingness to understand me. To make things right. It wasn't an apology that could fix everything. It wasn't a quick fix or a grand gesture that would erase the pain. But it was a start. I nodded slowly, trying to steady my breath. I didn't have all the answers. I wasn't sure how things would be from here on out. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let this define me. I'm still hurt, Dad, I said quietly. But maybe I'll understand. Maybe we can start again. Maybe we can figure this out. He pulled me into a hug, and for the first time that night, I felt a sense of relief. It wasn't everything. It wasn't perfect. But it was enough. And for now, that was all I needed. The party continued in the next room. I could hear the laughter and chatter again, but it felt different now. I didn't need to fit in. I didn't need to be the center of attention. I just needed to be me. I stood up, wiped the last of my tears, and took a deep breath. Maybe the night wasn't what I expected. Maybe it wasn't what I hoped for. But it was mine to own now. I turned back to my dad, who smiled at me with a mixture of hope and pride. And with that, I walked back toward the party, ready to face whatever came next. Maybe next year, things would be different. Maybe next year, I'd have a seat at the table. Maybe next year, we'd all understand each other a little better. But for now, I was okay. I was finally okay.